Literature Institute. I'm Professor Abha Shama, and as you know, this video series is dedicated to the students who are preparing for UGC-NET or CBSE-NET exam. Till now we have completed 2 parts in which we did 10 questions. This is the 3rd part, and we'll begin with the 11th question of December 2015 NET paper 2. Let's begin. In new criticism, the key term tension is associated with Clement Brooks, John Crow Ransom, Austin Warren, or Alan Tate. Now, first of all, we have to gather information about new criticism. What is new criticism? The critics who came after the First World War, and they started writing in a very different manner because of the effect of the Victorian art for art's sake, and many other factors played on this. So the whole scenario of the text changed and new criticism took place. The main theory behind new criticism is that the text is autonomous. It generates meaning of its own. There is no need of any history or biography or society or anything else which is external. Even author's intention or the reader's personal experience are irrelevant, totally fallacious in understanding a text. So, this term tension, given by whom? So we have to discuss all the 4 authors one by one. Let's take the first choice is Clement Brooks. He was an American critic and teacher. He wrote a satire on modern poetry, and his one work was The Well-Wrought Urn. He was also of the opinion that the interior life of the poem should be investigated, not the external. The paradox and the metaphor are more important than looking into the external entities of any work. The second is John Crow Ransom. He was called the Dean of the 20th century critics and poets, and he was also an American author and critic. What did he do? He collected some teachers and students and made a group which was called Fugitive. They published their opposition against the sentimental or the traditional way of writing, and this fugitive term became famous because of John Crow Ransom. This third choice is Austin Warren. He was also an American critic and author. He was called an old and new critic, for he took the best from the old and new criticism. He did not believe on one. He was like a general practitioner. So his work has got the best of old and new. The fourth choice is Alan Tate. Alan Tate, also a new critic, also called Men of Letters. He believed that the creative work can bring about the most congent expressions of human experience. The powerful feelings thus find their way in the text. He said that literature is not to point out a moral, neither it is a surrogate for religious teachings. He said that when the extension and the intention have a tension, the text is complete. It's beautiful. Extension means the denotative meaning and intention means the connotative meanings. When both are balanced, when there is a tension, when there is a balance between the two, then the text becomes so creative and so. The correct answer to the question number 11 is Alan Tate, because he mentions the concept of tension. Now let's take the Next question, question number 12. While compiling, what sort of book did Samuel Richardson conceive of the idea for his Pamela or Virtue Rewarded? There are 4 choices. An account of the plague in London? No. An instruction manual for manners? No. A book of devotion? Not the right answer. A book of moral letters? Yes. It could be a book of moral letters also, because this novel was published in an epistolary form. That means a series of letters were telling a complete story. It was a story of a young girl of 15 years, Pamela, who was beautiful and who was a maidservant to a lady called Lady B or Mrs. B. And when this Lady B dies, her son, Mr. B, capital letter B, he approaches her. He tries to seduce her, but his advances are turned down by the girl because she's because she is morally very strong. So, after some time, as the novel progresses, and in the end, they both marry each other, but after the legal marriage proposal. Now, there is a very good anecdote attached to this novel. There was a blacksmith who used to read this novel every day aloud in the afternoon, sitting on his anvil. And doing so, he attracted many ardent listeners who used to come and listen to his novel. Every day they used to come. He had a good audience collected in his porch or wherever he used to read. And when the story ended, the hero and the heroine met, the crowd cheered. They were so happy, they celebrated. So that was so nice. And these days as we see televisions and movies, etc., in those days people enjoyed reading the text of the novels. So this was all about Richardson's Pamela or Virtue Rewarded. Let's take the next question. Question number 13. Who among the war poets gained notoriety in 1917 when, disenchanted with the way of the war was being conducted, he drafted his letter of willful defiance of the military authority which captured attention of the House of Commons, was forcibly admitted to the war hospital at Craiglockhart, primarily to avoid his being court-martialed. The 4 choices are Rupert Brooke, Siegfried Sassoon, Wilfred Owen, and Isaac Rosenberg. Let's rule out Rupert Brooke because he died in 1915 in the First World War. He was a good writer and a well-educated man from Cambridge. He wrote Sonnets 1915, and in that collection we have a very good patriotic sonnet called The Soldier. It's very nice. He's poured all his feelings for his mother country, England. He says wherever he will die and be cremated, that part of earth will become England forever. And he calls his home English heaven. Nice, no? But then he died very early. Then Wilfred Owen. He also died early in 1918, again during the First World War. And it is said that he was butchered very early in his age before his gifts could get matured. Yeah, his mentor was Sassoon. Sassoon lived a long age. He also worked in the first. He also fought in the First World War, and he got military awards, titles. He also got Victoria Cross, the highest military honor of the British forces. And when he got this, why did he get this? Because he defeated some of the German troops or so. But while doing so, he was hurt and he was sent home. When he stayed at home, he meditated that how these diplomats and how these powerful men were using the other common people for their egos and for their own interest. Human life had become so insignificant that they are losing it every day in war. So he wrote something against them, and the book went into the eyes of House of Commons, and he was to be court-martialed. But just to save him, he was admitted in the hospital. So that was his reaction as a soldier and as a human. He was a happy warrior and a bitter pacifist. He was a hero in the war, and out of the hero evolved an evil for the diplomats and for the powerful people. So this was the story again of Sassoon. The fourth one is Isaac Rosenberg, again a soldier and a writer who also died in 1918 during the First World War. So this was all about. Let's take the next question. Question number 14. If you cannot understand an argument and remark, it's Greek to me, you are quoting whom? John Milton? No. Samuel Johnson? No. John Donne? No. It's Shakespeare. Of course we are quoting Shakespeare. But then in the Middle Ages, people were not so educated, and whenever they found the book written in Greek, they said, oh, it's in Greek. I cannot read it. I cannot understand it. And this phrase became a cliche in the later ages, and then the people who could not understand something, they used to call it a text written in Greek. This phrase appears in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. When Servilius Casca is asked by Cassius that during the festival when Caesar was offered a crown, he asked Casca that what did Cicero said, and he said whatever he said was Greek to me. So he said, really? Whatever he said was Greek? So he said, no, he said something, but that was understood to some, but for me everything was Greek. So this phrase has gained importance and has become the idiom of today. Let's take the next question. Question number 15. Which of the following works did Walter Scott combine? Walter Scott, the Scottish poet. So the Lay of Last Minstrel? No. This Lay of Last Minstrel is a big song. It's a big long poem. It's not a compilation of one or more poems. No. Myrmion. Myrmion is about a war, about the ancient war. Ivanhoe. Again, Ivanhoe Ivanhoe also depicts the past. The war between the Saxons and the Norman, where the Norman conquest took place in England. So again, it dates back to the Middle Ages. Then the minstrelsy of Scottish border. Yes, this is the answer, which is a compilation of songs and the sequences which were followed, the customs and other things which were followed on the border of English and Scots. The English and Scots, common thing was that border. Their life was very similar to each other. So all that in the song sequence, the poem sequence is present in the minstrelsy of Scottish border. Let's take the next question. It's question number 16. Which of the following is not written by Volkswagen? There are 4 texts. Home in Exile, Congi's Harvest, The Interpreters, The Swamp Dwellers. Now, Volkswagen, the African writer, coming from Nigeria. He is the first African to brag the Nobel Prize in 1986. He has written a lot about Negroes, negritude, color discrimination, the African Civil War, the Nigerian way of living, like other African authors. The first choice is Home in Exile. Home in Exile is not written by him, so it's the correct answer. This is written by Chinua Achebe, who is often referred as the father of African poetry. And the other three, Congi's Harvest, Interpreters, and Swamp Dwellers, as I told you, are set in Nigeria and discussing the various problems of the country and the political and the social conditions of those times. He's a professor, and he was even taken in prison for some of his writings, and he participated in the independence war for his country, also independence movement. So this was all about Wolsoinka. So we finished the part 3 of our discussion of paper 2, NET 2015, 15 December. We'll meet you in the next part. Till then, take care.